and do the most extraordinary things. That's general ability. In Herbalife, we've watched people who no one gave them a chance, but no other opportunity had ever tapped their unique ability. It was there, but it was undiscovered. It was there, but it was unapplied. It was there, but it was lost in confusion. It was there, but nobody ever recognized it. It was there, but nobody offered them a helping hand saying, come, we'll teach. Nobody offered the opportunity to say, come, we'll recognize. We will help you start, we will help you build. Not having that opportunity before and now having it, we've watched the most extraordinary things happen with people who seemingly others said didn't have the ability, but sure enough they did. Now it's awakened. There's a unique story talking about incredible ability of a university student who was being given an incredible award. He was in mathematics, and this was an incredible award of mathematics, and the ceremony was extra special. And here's why. This young student in his mathematics class one day was just sort of nodding off, and when he sort of woke up, the class was leaving. So he gathered up his books and prepared to leave, and then he looked up at the blackboard and saw two mathematical problems. When he looked at these two mathematical problems on the board, he thought, well, that's the assignment, for the next class. I better jot those down. And so he jotted down those two problems, mathematical problems, and then hurried out with the rest of the class. When he got home that evening, he started working on these problems. And he said, these are the toughest mathematical problems I have ever seen. There seems to be no answer. There seems to be no answer. And he worked with both of them. And he just literally almost tore his hair out saying, at first they seemed fairly simple, but I can see right now there is no answer. There is no answer. But finally, one of them that he had really struggled with, he finally found the answer, or thought he had the answer. And he, packed up his notes, and when the next class was opened up, he offered his paper to the teacher. And little did he know, when he offered his paper to the teacher looked at what he had done, and he said, I jotted those two mathematical problems down. He said, I've wrestled with them. There didn't seem to be any answer. Finally, I got a breakthrough on one of them, and here's the best I can do. Well, the teacher was astounded. And the reason is because the teacher had put up on the blackboard the two mathematical problems that the world had said was unsolvable. These were the two mathematical problems that could not be solved, and everybody agreed. And lo and behold, the teacher checked, and for sure, he had solved one of the world's unsolvable problems. Now, and he was getting this incredible award for having solved this problem. Now, here's the unique part of the story. When he wrote those two problems down and took them home to go to work on them, he didn't know that they were two of the world's mathematical unsolvable problems. Great story. The human genius is limitless. The possibility for thought is so incredible. The unique thing about thought and spirit, it has no restriction. It has no, it's not like, a physical body moving through space and time. You can only go so fast. An airplane now can only go so fast. Even the speed of light can only go so fast. But here's what's incredible. Thought and spirit, travels faster than the speed of light and has components that, nothing else can match. The law says that, two bodies cannot occupy the same space at the same time. It's impossible. It's either one or the other. But what's amazing is when you share, you receive. Instantaneously giving out and getting back, it's so extraordinary. These are the possibilities of the human brain, the ability to think and to ponder and to wonder and to figure things out. Now here's what I want you to discover in this study, and that is your own ability. Part of it you discover as you go. That's what happened to Mark. You know, when he first got into sales, you know, in the clothing store, you know, he found out he could, you know, represent a product and he could do pretty good. And that was a discovery for him. You know, he figured it, you know, being a mechanic, you know, working on a car, working in a nice place, meeting people, which he loved to do anyway, and learning to sell, you know, a man a suit of clothes, you know, started to awaken in Mark some of that ability that he had. And if he hadn't have gotten that job, you know, who knows? You know, he might have gotten off into something else and that wouldn't have really started to tap his unique abilities. Then, of course, when he put the Herbalife program together, those abilities that were there all the time started developing, and he soon discovered, hey, I can do this and I can do that. Not only can I do all of this, I can do all of this. And when it reaches this level, now I've got the confidence that since I've mastered this, I can master the rest, I can master the rest. And that's not only the Mark Hughes story, that's everybody's story. Skill by skill, language by language, ability by ability, yours can grow just as well as Mark's or anyone else. You've got it. The key is to use it. And with your Herbalife experience, that's the best place to test your ability. Yes, you can learn to do this, but how about this, and how about the next step, and how about the next step? Don't stop. Now that you've gotten started, don't stop on your journey to study and tap and utilize your own personal ability. Now, to finish up, here's a couple of more. Next is, as leaders, we must be students of inevitability. What is inevitable? Here's a little scene. 300 feet from Niagara Falls in a little boat with no motor and no oars. We call this scene inevitable. It's over. If you find yourself in such an unfortunate position, it's already lost. 300 feet from Niagara Falls, little boat, no motor, no oars. It's over. It's already done. Even though you haven't crashed over the falls, even though that experience hasn't yet occurred, you're now in this unfortunate position, and it's called inevitable. I raise this issue because what you don't want to be caught in is in those inevitable positions, where either through carelessness or whatever, rather than find yourself 300 feet from Niagara Falls, if someone would have painted the roar of the falls sufficiently for you way upstream, or maybe they had seen an experience of someone who reached that inevitable point, you know, and then they were lost. If enough of those scenes were painted, then you probably wouldn't have been so careless to have found yourself in that position. And that's really what life is all about, learning from the experiences of others that have either witnessed or have been in these, you know, inevitable positions where because of mistakes and because of failure and because of carelessness, they have found themselves in this inevitable position, and sure enough, it was too late. You know, for John Belushi, there reached a time when it was inevitable. You know, he had crossed the line when his careless mistakes and his drug use and all the rest caused him to reach a certain point where, you know, you cannot come back. You cross the line. We must teach our children that there are certain points in life that are inevitable. The disaster is inevitable. The heartbreak is inevitable. I learned it in economics. I found out early, you know, you could make $5,000 a month and go broke. And way back then, $5,000 a month was a lot of money. And I used to say, how could you go broke if you made $5,000 a month? And the answer was simple: spend $6,000. And if you're making $5,000, it's easy to spend that other $1,000 and just not realize it. It just gets away. So it is easy to go broke making $5,000 a month. Just spend $6,000, and it's inevitable. You know, if you don't change your ways, if you don't recognize it soon enough, if somebody doesn't come along and sort of ring the alarm bells quick enough, sure enough, the inevitable will come to spend more than you make. One of my friends says, you know, if your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep becomes your downfall. And there finally comes a point when it's inevitable. So don't find yourself there, but be a student. You know, if I keep up my present direction, where will it take me? If I keep up my present disciplines, or where will that take me? and my lack of disciplines accumulated over some period of time, where will that lead me? Dr. Jamie, I'm sure, would say, if you refuse to make corrections in certain health practices, it's inevitable. If you don't get enough of this nutrient, it's inevitable over a certain period of time. And this combined with this, now it is truly inevitable, someday too late. That's why we're always ascertaining what is the risk factor. For a woman especially, that extra 10 pounds is a little more risky than for a man. 20 pounds, that risk factor goes like this. 30, 40 pounds, overweight for a woman especially, the risk factor's now off the scale. And unless there's some adjustment, like, being rescued by Herbalife, somebody to tell the story, you say, Mary, it's inevitable. So the key is to be a student of inevitability so that you don't find yourself in that impossible position where you've crossed the line and now it's too late. Next, and the last one, is to be a student of rationality. Learning to put things through your own mind. And we are usually only going to act on something that's important if it makes sense to us. Now, sometimes what makes sense to us leaves us still a little bit short of what we should know, for the full expanse of knowledge to do a lot more things. But we can only really move as quickly as things make sense to us. Sometimes we step out by faith, but it makes sense to us to use our little faith. It makes sense to us to take a chance. It makes sense to us to make the investment first and then hope for the harvest. But if it doesn't make sense, if it isn't rational, then we're probably not going to act. We have to learn to study, our own rationality, what makes sense to us, and then here's what is the opportunity we have, especially as Herbalife distributors, is to try our best to make it make sense to somebody else. If you make the presentation in such a way that it's obvious, it's logical, I can see it, it makes sense to me, that's the way it seems to be, so we will act on that. If you'll get good at that, I'm telling you, you can affect a lot of people's lives. Now, here's the best rationality. We call it common sense. Humans have been given this extraordinary ability to use their brain power to come up with what we call common sense. Right? Yes, I've heard all of this, but common sense tells me that looks like that's an exaggerated story, not a real story. Common sense tells me. So part of it is to trust your common sense, but also to be willing to expand your common sense. What seemed to be common sense, 4 or 5 years ago, was a little short. Now I understand common sense is to think of it this way and this way. So this subject of rationality is vitally important. Now when you get home, I want you also to remember to be mindful of the seasons. I've got a little topic now called the 4 major lessons in life to learn. I've done this some time in the past, but it's been a while. And for all of you that are brand new, I'd like to have you pick up on what I'm about to share with you right now. I think it's going to be valuable. It's going to be important. So jot this phrase down. Life and business is like the changing seasons. This is some of the most valuable information I got when I was a young man, just starting out. Life and business is like the seasons. And then here's the next phrase. You cannot change the seasons. That's impossible. You can't rearrange the seasons. You cannot say, well, I'll take 5 harvest times, no winters, a few springs, and a summer or 2. You can't rearrange them. The seasons are going to come however they're going to come, and you cannot change that. So you cannot change the seasons. But make this note. You can change yourself. That was the message I got when I was 25 years old with someone who took the time to teach me. You can change yourself. And by the way, only human beings have this extraordinary ability to make dramatic changes in their life.
All other life forms except human beings are driven by instinct and the genetic code. In America, the goose can only fly south in the winter. And why does the goose have to fly south in the winter in America? Because he's a goose. He can't fly any other direction. But that's not true with human beings. Human beings can go north. They can go south. They can go east. They can go west. Human beings can live one way for 5 years and then tear up that script and live a totally different way the next 5 years. Humans can do that. I'm asking you to utilize your power as a human being and change your life to whatever degree you want it changed. If you want your income to change, I'm telling you it's within your power. With Herbalife's marketing and these explosive, incredible products, you can do that. Any year you choose, you can make incredible changes in your life. You're not a tree, you don't have to stay. You're not a goose, you don't have to fly south. I'm telling you, anytime you want to, you can say, I'm going to change my attitude, I'm going to change my income, I'm going to change my abilities, I'm going to do more than I've ever done before. Take on that as your God-given right as a human being to change your life to whatever degree you want it to change. As I've watched Mark these last 17 years, I'm telling you, Mark was one of those that took up the challenge, being a human being, to drastically change his life. These years, since he was about 20, from the last 20 years before, he put together the Herbalife products. What a change, what a transformation. And if Mark can do it, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. If the President's team members have done it, there isn't anybody in here that can't do it. Dramatically change the course and the quality of your life. So learn the value of the seasons now. You can't change them, but you can change yourself. Now here's the 4 major lessons in life to learn. Number 1, learn how to handle the winters. It's a fact of life. The winters follow the fall, the harvest. And pray tell how often? 6,000 years that we know of, recorded history. Winter comes after fall. Night comes after day. Difficulty follows opportunity. Recession always comes after expansion. It's been the rhythm of life for the last 6,000 years of recorded history. Now there's all kinds of winters. There's the winter of the season, but there's all kinds of other winters. There's political winters. What a winter that was when the Nazis marched into Prague. What a winter it was when the communists put up the Iron Curtain. What a winter it was when Stalin finally took power in Russia. What a winter it was when Benito Mussolini took power in Italy. What a winter it was in Japan. What a winter it was in many parts of the world back during World War II, one of the longest winters, political winters in recorded history. So the winters are going to come. The winter of sickness, the winter of disappointment, the winter of devastation, social winters, economic winters, personal winters when your heart is smashed in 1,000 pieces and the nights are unusually long. It's simply called wintertime. But the winters are inevitable. So it has been for the last 6,500 years recorded history. You say, well, Mr. Rohn, what can I do about the winters of life? In World War II, we marched against the winter, and finally the spring came. We marched against the tyranny of communism, and finally the walls came tumbling down. We marched against the tyranny of the Nazis, and finally liberated the world for democracy and freedom. And that's what I'm telling you. It's possible for you to conquer your winters. And some are small little winters. When you get your first refund, a little small winter. When you show up, someone said, right, they put together the meeting, got everything ready to show the story, ready to do the meeting, and nobody showed up. It's called a little piece of wintertime. But anyway, that's going to come. The winter of a divorce, the winter of a death in the family, the winter of a tragedy, some things we can't understand. But here's what we do know. It's possible for us to get through the winter. Here's what's exciting about the passing of time. It takes you through whatever you're experiencing at the moment. That's what time will do, take you through the winter. Now, how do you handle the winters? Make this little note. You can get better, and you can get stronger, and you can get wiser. There's no winter that you can't overcome. There's no winter that you can't figure out how to survive. There's no winter powerful enough that you cannot, with the ingenuity of being a human being, especially with the Herbalife opportunity, of figuring out a way to get through it. Hang on. Make this note. Winters don't last forever. Yes, the tyranny of the Nazis lasted for about 5 years, but it was soon over. Yes, the tyranny of communism lasted for 75 years, but finally that long winter was past. So become wiser, become stronger, become better to handle the winters that are going to come in your life. And with the strength of the Herbalife family, with the strength of the training, with the strength of these incredible products, with self-esteem bursting out all over, with the skills you're going to develop, you're going to be able to handle whatever comes your way. I promise you that. Now here's the next season. It's called the season of spring. And make this note. If you haven't made it in your head already, make it in your notes. Spring always comes. Sometimes the winter seems long. The night seems like it'll never pass. But sure enough, eventually, the night has to give way to the day. Winter has to give way to the spring. The difficult time has to give way to opportunity. The recession has to give way, finally, to the progression, to the expansion. And I don't know what kind of winters you've been through, but I want you to know when the Herbalife story reached your ears, when the Herbalife marketing reached your consciousness, and when this opportunity was passed along to you, I know that for a lot of you, it was called springtime has arrived. The long night is past, and opportunity is here. Spring always comes. Just hang in there when the night is long. Hang in there when it's dark. Hang in there when you can't figure it out. And your spring will surely come. Now here's what you must learn to do. Jot this note down. Take advantage of the spring. Just because spring comes is no sign you're going to look good in the harvest. You must do something with it. You must seize that moment. It is true that the dark time doesn't last forever, but here's what you've got to also understand. Spring doesn't last forever. In space language, we call it a window of opportunity. When they get ready to blast off, the rocket's headed for the moon, whatever, there's a certain period of time. That's the time you've got to go. If you don't go then, you've got to wait for another whole cycle to turn. Springtime is here, called Herbalife for you. I'm asking you to take advantage of it. Tell the story. Pass out the literature. Make the calls. Conduct the meetings. See the people. Grab and seize this opportunity like you've never seized anything in your life before to make something remarkable of it. This Herbalife opportunity is called springtime. Take advantage. Don't be lazy, especially in the spring. Don't be distracted, especially in the spring. What if you asked a farmer to go bowling in the spring? He would think you were insane. The farmer would say you can go bowling in the winter. You can go bowling after the crop is in. But you certainly can't go bowling in the spring. And I want you to know after this extravaganza, an extraordinary new spring is upon us. If there was ever a time when you get back home, this is the time to massively increase your numbers. Get up a little earlier, stay up a little later, pour it on, take advantage of this spring that's here. Now here's my next point. You've got to take advantage of every spring that comes because there's only a handful. Life isn't forever. It finally comes to an end. One of the Beatles wrote, "All things must pass." The sunrise doesn't last all day. Spring doesn't last all summer. The sunset doesn't last all night. We all have periods of time, pieces of time. And when those pieces of time comes, what you've got to do is take advantage of each time that comes. At the longest, life is brief. At the longest, life is just a small period of time. So don't waste your springs. Don't waste the opportunity to talk to someone. Don't waste the opportunity to have a meeting. Don't waste the opportunity to come to next extravaganza. Don't waste the chance. Each spring that comes, take advantage of them because there's just a few. Don't let them all pass. Take advantage. Now here's number 3. In the course of the seasons, 1 is the winter, 2 is the spring, 3 is the summer. The summer is called challenging time. In the summer, we've got 2 things going for us. 1 is opportunity, but the other is to watch out for your enemies. Nourish your values in the spring, in the summer. Like a mother, nourish the values. Distributors you've got, make sure that they get plenty of nourishment from you, plenty of training from you, plenty of understanding from you. Don't be short, don't be careless. Give them your best like a mother would give the best to her child. Give them the best you've got. Just because they're not part of your immediate family, they're a part of your Herbalife family. They deserve the best nourishment you've got. Don't shortchange them on food that'll help them to grow. Don't shortchange them on information that will help them to learn. Don't shortchange them on ideas that'll help them to transform their lives. Be like a mother in the summer and give the best you've got to everybody you can reach and everybody you can touch. It's called opportunity in the making. Be careful of those around you. They're the ones that can make you wealthy. They're the ones that can make it possible for you to go where you want to go, earn what you want to earn, do what you want to do. Here's a note to make. Volume doesn't make you rich. Points don't make you wealthy. Even these products don't make you wealthy. Here's what makes you wealthy. Other people. It takes people to make you wealthy. Even when your check comes from Herbalife, you say, well, Herbalife sends my check. Well, here's what you've got to understand. It's not the 13th floor that sends you your check. It's not the computer that sends you your check. Some live human being had to make it possible for that money to finally get to you. So remember, it's human beings that make our lives valuable. It's not systems. It's not numbers in the marketing. It's not computers. It's not the printout. It's not points, and it's not royalties. What makes us all rich beyond our wildest imagination is people. So be mindful of investing in the summer in every person you can possibly invest in. They will make you wealthy. Now here's what else you must do in the summer. Like a father, you must look out for your enemies. And believe me, we're going to have some. In the political world during our lifetime, there's been many enemies of freedom, enemies of democracy, enemies of free enterprise. It wasn't that many years ago that it was illegal to make a profit in the communist countries. It wasn't that long ago until democracy was not flourishing like it is today. In America, you know, we've had 200 years of freedom and democracy and free enterprise for the last 200 years. But some have not been so fortunate. Some have not been so lucky. Let us learn to appreciate it when it does come our way. But there's going to be political enemies. There's going to be social enemies. There's going to be people that will be envious of Herbalife. And they will not be your friends. But remember, like a father who would guard carefully his family, I'm asking you to stand guard over the family called Herbalife. I'm asking you to stand at the door. I'm asking you, whatever threatens you, threaten it back. Whatever pushes against you, push it back. Whatever wants to overwhelm you like a father, stand up, take control, and do battle with your enemies wherever you find them. Now here's one more. We must also deal with the enemies within ourselves. Yes, we've got enemies on the outside. Saddam Hussein takes over Kuwait. We have to put together 500,000 troops, go kick him out of Kuwait so that liberty will continue to flourish. But some of the enemies are not way off in some distant country. Some of the enemies are not personified in the Hitlers of the world and the Stalins of the world. Some of the enemies are a lot closer than that. They are within.